Hi! Welcome to the Atlas Mooncast. We are gonna get Marissa, and then we're gonna.
Oh my God. It looks amazing. It just looks like it's always been like this. I like being good to the places that I am, and I want to greet them, and I would like to be whimsical in that way. And like, I really feel, because I can feel the energy of these things. And that's my inner child who, as long as I'm connected to that, I think that it's because I have these two placements. I have this Venus in Pisces who's like very dreamy, and that to me feels like my inner child. It feels like my heart, and there's like a little bit of a heaviness and a little bit of a fantastical aspect. But then I have a Capricorn moon in a Scorpio degree in 8 degrees, and that's an extremely harsh placement. And the two of them are like, I'll know if I'm too mean or if I'm too harsh. I'm like, I'm not in my heart space. And so like, so talking to things, greeting trees, like talking to my food or my water, like remembering like this is all one here, that keeps me in my heart space, and that keeps me that keeps my inner child is like, yeah, that's good. Like, this is the way that it feels good to live. So, and I'll notice if I haven't done it for a while. Because like whenever you start a habit, you gotta like remember to do it. But now it gets to the point where I'll be like walking away from my car and I'll be like, oh no, bye car. Like, bye. Yeah. And it just makes me feel like, oh, I'm with friends. Like I'm never alone, which is a lovely feeling.
Yes, that is so beautiful. I love that.
It's fun.
Yeah.
I encourage it.
Yeah. I mean, I do notice too that I feel very nurtured when I talk to myself, like out loud, not just in my head. Everything's gonna be okay. No, especially when nobody's around, that knowing that the space is occupied, even just by me. Yeah, and reminding myself that, and like being able to say hello, like projecting that. Oh, it echoed back to me. I'm here. It's okay. Like I'm safe. But yeah, that is beautiful. I'm gonna have to try that because I definitely feel like it feels like a blessing. It almost feels like you bless your space every time you go and you leave. And there's a sense of gratitude with that and a sense of awe almost, which is what I really strongly associate with my inner child, which I think for all children because of the curiosity and the wonder, just like awed by every experience because every experience is new. And like that is quite literally the awesome thing about life is that everything, every step, even though I'm in the same room, even though I have the same routine, like I get up and I do yoga at the same time every single morning. Sometimes I do the same flow, 2 days in a row, 3 days in a row, but it's different every time I show up. Exactly.
Yes.
And it's like the movement of our energy and our thoughts and our emotions and the space itself, like even the smallest shift, like it makes it different. Even though like today I spent the whole day like organizing things with my partner, and it was like I loved it. I was in this apartment. It's not like we went and did anything crazy, but it was a new experience, and I loved just shifting the energy around. I'm like, oh, I'm so excited. Like, look, I moved my books over here now. Like, and I loved it. And it's like my inner child sometimes gets hurt because I don't always allow it to be as excited as it is. Like exactly. Something as small as like moving my books to a different corner, that excites me. So why should I hide how excited I am about that? And it's like sometimes it's annoying to people outside because like my partner's like, listen, you've told me 20 times and you've asked me to look at it 20 times. I'm like, yeah, tell me some more. Like I gotta hear it. So it's like validate it and like join in on it because it moves past validation where your inner child
Wants to play. Wants to play with it.
Like, I'm not just asking to like get on your nerves or validate me because I am validated now by my own excitement. I want you to join me. Like I want you to have fun with me.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know why I went on that tangent.
No, that's perfect because it's like adults don't really play with each other anymore, and I actually think that this is why we have these I mean, I'm about to make a jump here, but I do think that this is a problem about why we get so sick when we are adults and why there are so many people who are just miserable around. And because there is nothing in their lives to be happy for, they don't know how to have fun with that stuff. And it's so, it like hurts me so much to be around them. And yet at the same time, there is also, I think, like what I'm learning now is how to be respectful and reverent. Because I think as a child, some of the things that we also learn are like, oh, how to interact with people in a loving way and not to inflict trauma or not to, yeah, any of that stuff. So it's kind of like, oh, how do I let this other person be themselves around me? How can I be myself in a comfortable way? But then also recognize that there is truly like an epidemic here of people who are so sad and they think that life has no meaning. And it's like, I don't even think there is anything we can do, but I do think there's a certain amount of like, I wish I could tell them. Like, and so the only thing I can do is like really try to play because I love them. And people find it very condescending, I think. And I think that it's because it reminds them of when they were literally a child and maybe an adult was trying to play with them in a certain way. There's just something about, I think it's because like children and the inner child gets manipulated so much that as an adult, you're like, oh, no, I finally protected them. Like, you can't let them out because I'm holding them. And you're like, it's okay. And also that side of you is much stronger than the shell that you have made for it. And you're potentially in peril of wasting your life if you don't let them out.
Yes. No, you said so many amazing things there. Oh my goodness, like I want to talk about all of it. And it's like our emotions. Okay, so they are energy. And that energy can get stuck in the body. I mean, that's what like Reiki and acupuncture and yoga and just running, going to the gym, like meditation, all of those things that address the energy that you feel. I mean, even just take, there's, I think it's MBSNR. It's like a mindfulness. If you look into it, they have an 8-week course that you can take, and it teaches you the science behind mindfulness and meditation and how just sit and breathe and take a moment to figure out and feel where you have tension in your body. And even just after a few breaths, that tension melts away. And it's like the reason that we get sick is because we hold that tension and that energy in our bodies. Like we get anxiety, and it's like, I do it. I feel it between like my shoulder blades and my mid back all the time. And sometimes it doesn't matter how much I move to try to get rid of it. It's not until I sit down and I breathe that it goes away. And it builds though. Like if we don't or find a way to
address it,
then it just builds on top of itself. It snowballs. And the other thing you said too was being in a space and seeing people that are like so out of touch or like unwilling to be moved. And you had said, well, what do I do? Like, I mean, I guess there's nothing we really can do. But then you went on to say about, except be happy because I love them. That's what you do. Because it shows them. Like, it shows them that it's okay to be loved. It's okay to. And it's like eventually just that is going to get them to the point of being like, I enjoy this. This feels good. How can I bring more of this into my life? And they'll ask like, why is this person the way that they are? And how can I be more like them? Because at first I didn't like it. I didn't understand it. But I'm realizing it makes me feel good the more that it happens. Like what we can do if somebody's not open is just be open ourselves, because eventually they'll come back and they'll say, hey, I was kind of digging that.
Yeah, like it was kind of maybe. Yeah, I think too. It's like I don't know where I was going. Did you have another thing to say?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. I didn't. I was afraid I was interrupting you. Yeah. It's funny though. Like, I do also think so. When I first went through my awakening, I was like filled with this. Yeah, it was kind of like a Kundalini. It was like a full somatic Kundalini awakening. It was unbelievable. Like it was the craziest thing hands down that's ever happened to me. And I will probably work the rest of my spiritual, like that was like such a peak. And then I hit like some fear, and then there was like, oh, all of this stuff and then I was like in a vet. So like now I'm kind of on this like, just to get back to where I was at, there needs to be a somatic, like I need to integrate and like actually do all of this stuff I learned, where it was super easy at first because I had all this like energy and stuff flowing through me. It didn't really matter what state my body was in. And in fact, I wound up like my response to try to balance all of this was actually like all of this trauma that I've like ever had came up. And it was an incredibly overwhelming experience. And I think the issue that I have now is like, there were so many people in my life who saw that I was going through something like very unusual, and it seemed to be emotionally intense, and potentially they were like a little bit afraid of that. And so I really don't think like I need, I think, to get to a more I don't know, like a more stable practice in order to then be like, okay, I know this works. Like because I can tell people now, like, yeah, this was all real. This was great. But the problem is that like, because I haven't fully integrated everything, and there are still a lot of really painful aspects, I'm still almost like an unreliable witness, or not even that. It's almost like people are like, well, I can still pretend like what you went through like wasn't legitimate because you still seem upset about it. Mm-hmm. And that's been really interesting. But I really think that like so much of this has been my inner child, is what I'm trying to say. Is I'm like, I know, like I as an adult and intellectually can tell you all the things that happened to me, but truly until I like heal my inner child, which again, like, can we really ever heal? Whatever, but like heal my inner child's experience of my spiritual awakening, that's when it all is going to sync together, and I think it'll be much more resonant. And then when I am playful, there will also be this air of safety because my nervous system is completely healed. And like, that's a huge issue that I think that I didn't realize before, is like, we're all extremely aware of each other's nervous systems, like very aware of them. And they're on a subconscious level, we can tell who is safe and who is not safe. And people who have either nervous system disorders, or they have gone through a trauma, or yeah, they're on the autism spectrum or something like this, which makes your nervous system on edge. People who don't have those things are going to be like, why are you messing with my nervous system? Like, what is it about you that is so scary? Because I'm scared. Like, I feel scared when I'm around you. And I think that that's like a part of protecting their inner child as well. So even in like a rejection way, that is still, interestingly enough, it is still an acknowledgement by their inner child of like, we don't feel safe with you yet. Figure out your stuff and then we'll come back.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like our inner child, and even like I don't want to have that sense of inner child and us as children separate, because it's the same thing.
Yeah.
I feel like for me, for a while,
and also
it was
quantumly time travel-y, like that's the child, that was them, that was you, that was us, that's what happens. Yeah.
But what I was gonna say, sorry, I totally got distracted by like two crossing thoughts that I had there, was how intuitive we are, how intuitive our inner child is, because there is that freedom, like we let go of judgment and restriction on ourselves, and it's just pure curiosity. And how we learned as children was following that intuition and following that curiosity and learning as we did that, because whenever we followed what felt right, it generally would end well, unless of course we snuck to the cookie jar and then got in trouble. But it's like the kinds of things that were deeper, in the sense of like being afraid of the dark or a dark alley, like having those feelings that are deep within, not just like a head type of fear. Like we have a lot of head anxiety now, like mental, but like that gut and soul reaction, where it does make your heart race, it does make your head think, but it starts somewhere inside where it just feels like you can just feel everywhere before you think it, and before it's like racing. It's like that pit in your stomach, and it's like that is where your intuition resides. That is where your child is like, hey, something's not right here. And it's like all of it is one. So I'm not saying like your intuition is your inner child, but your intuition like first came through your inner child, because you have curiosity in.
Yeah, it's almost like the first face they wore. It's like that was yeah. I agree with that. I agree with that.
Especially because we are extremely wise whenever we were children, because
yes,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, we were
oh my God.
like, you think people are wise with age and experience, which is true, but it's a different kind of wise. So there's like multiple different types of wise, and I think that like the one that we associate now, like mainstream wisdom, is like, oh, it's because of all the experience you've had throughout your entire life, which is true, but also there's a wisdom that comes with
unlearning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know. That one's so tough too, because you spend your whole life reading all this stuff and listening to all these people, and then you're all of a sudden you're like, I have to forget all of this. All of this is what's standing in the way. It's almost like you like build a tower made of books, and you get to the top of it, and then and then there's like a little task at the top, and you're like, oh, what is this task? And it's like, take down the book tower. And you're like, I spent my whole life building this thing. Are you kidding me? And the task is to just brick by brick, book by book, just empty your mind, because it's really the feel. I had a friend today who's very dear to me, and we were talking about like what's next for our spiritual path, like how are we going to kind of continue what we're doing, just whatever. And he said something like, he was like, I might, get like a graduate degree in like I think it was Judaic studies. And I was like, first of all, I immediately was like, follow your path. Yes, like wherever the call leads you, you must go. Like that, this is the journey, right? But then I was like, but also, I'm on the other end. Like I feel like I did all of this research and all this stuff, and there's like really nothing like learning how to channel your own divine wisdom and to feel your feelings and to like empty your brain and to just be nothing. And that's the closest I've found to like enlightenment. Like no matter what I know, like I don't know anything. I keep unlearning things, and eventually one day, like when I'm enlightened or whatever, I'll be sitting on a rock in the sun, and I'll just be like, and I'll just be nothing, and it'll be like that's the pinnacle. It won't be like the intellect of my life. It will be sitting in the sun and just feeling things, not even thinking anything, just sitting there. And I'm trying to get there so bad. That was the whole thing. Is I was like, how do I get there? Like I love my life. I love being of the world. I love being in it. And then, but I also am like, but this path leads me straight out of it. What does that mean? How do I build up this life that I know inevitably I also must take down at the end?
And like, you know what? The really esoteric thing to say would be like, but you're already there.
I was gonna say, but it already happened.
You're already there.
But there is no life. Yeah, but like, what are you talking about?
It's like,
yeah, you're already there. We already did it.
Man. I was wondering, so all the things we're talking about, like the inner child, and we kept talking about learning and growing and forgetting. For the meditation, do you mind? I wrote a poem yesterday from what I had been like experiencing and what I thought of, and I'm hoping maybe it could be something that would either stir something within you, within whoever is listening and watching, and also provide like a sense of like maybe a bit of visual and like words that will trigger your mind and your emotions to start to work. So maybe if I just incorporate a little bit like coming in face. All right,
I'm down. I'm down for anything.
All right, let me grab my laptop real quick.
Actually, I'm gonna get a charger. My phone's dying. We'll have a quick intermission. Hold on.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
Yeah. coming into the space, wiggling out your arms because our children love to move, and then getting comfy and closing down your eyes, taking a few deep breaths in and out. And finding a smile as you sit there and feel curiosity, excitement, inspiration, exploration, silliness. And allow yourself to feel at home in your body, in your environment, so that as I read through this poem, you can slowly enter inwards towards your heart center, to your safe space internally, your soul sanctuary, where you can meet with your inner child, and you can take their hand and you can stand them up and greet them and walk with them. Just walk with them, be with them. And see what comes up for you as I share what had come up for me. I'm going to tell you a story, and here's how it goes. There once was a little girl with rays of sunshine for pigtails and stars for eyes. Through the world she galloped, Clydesdale on tippy toes. Her face was a heart, her mouth always wide. She would wonder at the stories that spilled from the pages of nursery and blink back sleepiness to grasp at the gleeful ending to a bedtime tale. With fingertips as bright as the moon, she would trace constellations of innocent serendipity across the kernels of her popcorn ceiling. A grin laced with frisk and feist, shaping the curves of each cheek. At night, her daydreams would come to life, pulling her conscious curiosity beneath an iceberg of fantasy to spit her out on the other side of God's pillow as the dawn cajoled her eyelashes to part and greet the new day. Where do I go when the lights are out? Warning words whispering into the folds of balled up bed sheets. How long does my spirit drift, and who brings it back? Will she ever know? Everyday growing, everyday learning, everyday forgetting. Growing into the woman she was always told to be. Learning how to fit into a copycat mold for society. Forgetting how to close her eyes and witness each cell as stardust. Going out of rollicking play and rolling down grassy hills. Learning the ways of decorum and delicacy. Forgetting how to trust the voice inside, weeping for her to come home. Everyday growing, everyday learning, everyday forgetting. Where do I go when the lights are out? Morning words ironed out of the folds of unkempt bed sheets before work. How does my spirit drift, and who brings it back? Will she ever ask again? Everyday forgetting, everyday learning, everyday growing. Forgetting about who she was told to be. Learning how to love herself as she is. Growing her inner realm, a universe to be explored. Forgetting the disapproval of clamoring conviviality. Learning the ways of her emotions, the ebbs and flows of her being. growing like a rose unfurling to the coos of her intuition, going back home. Where do I go when the lights are out? Morning words kissed by dewy inquisition. How long does my spirit drift, and who brings it back? Only she will ever know. At night her daydreams come to life, and she goes wherever they may take her, drifting along ripples of awe until she is carried onto shores pebbled with gratitude. With fingertips blazing sunlight, she traces the dawn of a new day surfacing the horizon, a grin laced with lusciousness and ardor shaping the curves of each cheek. She writes the stories of the wonders she encounters, her ambition and purity riddling a limerick of life. Her face is beautiful, her lips brushed with truth. Through the world she dances with the elements. There is a little girl with rays of sunshine for pigtails and stars for eyes. And she bleeds a river of wonder through the veins of this fairy vessel. And as you continue to walk with your inner child, maybe ask them what this has brought up. Allow them to ask you what this has brought up. And find a comfortable seat with them in your inner sanctuary. And sit down together across from each other. And allow your gaze to fall towards both of your hands. And allow your palms to open, revealing 2 roses in your hand as you are today, and in their hand as they are showing up for you. Take note of whatever color it is, if it's warm, if it's glowing. And place the roses on the ground, side by side. Take the hands of your inner child and look into each other's eyes. And silently, to them, let them know that they are safe, that they are loved, that they are accepted, that they are witnessed, that you are here, and that they are here. Slowly, with them, allow both of your eyes to close as you come back into this present body, into this physical space. And taking a deep breath in to reground yourself into this moment. And a deep breath out. One more, breathing in. And opening your eyes as you exhale. And maybe ask yourself, what is one thing that you can do this week that would just make your inner child smile?
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Wow. Ah, incredible. Thank you. I'm like, this is so cozy.
Right?
Wow. And your poem was beautiful. I was in my childhood bedroom, And it's funny, I normally picture, there were two houses I was in growing up, and there's one I normally picture more, but I realized I was a preteen in that one. And this one was the original one. I was like, wow, I haven't been here for a long time.
That's so interesting. I always end up seeing myself in the woods.
There were woods behind that house, and when my inner child and I were like in a sanctuary space, it was in the yard. There was an area, and I would always play in the area. And I forgot too, I was one of those kids who would gather things and make little potions. And there was even a tree stump that my mom would plant things in sometimes. But after, she didn't do it all the time, and it wasn't like in every season, of course. So it would just be this hollowed out little, I mean, of course, I would just put things in it and like make little, I would do like
Fairy house.
Yeah, and I would do little like ceremonies and stuff. And how natural doing ceremony and communing with nature used to be. And I was always like a tree, like I remember when I heard the term tree hugger, I laughed. Because it was so relatable. I'd never heard it before. As a kid, I was like, oh, of course, I know exactly what that means. And yeah, because like, of course I'm hugging the trees. Like, right? It's the most normal thing in the world. Someone has to tell you when you're a tree hugging, like not to do it. Because it's like, trees.
Trees, like every time I go in the woods, I'm like, bring it in.
And it's funny when you see one and it's almost like you know them. You're like, oh, hey, what are you doing in this forest? Like, and it's not one in particular. You're like, why do I know this tree? Oh, I know the street from.
It's so crazy. Yeah, and it's like, it's so comforting. I love hugging trees.
Yeah, man, trees are their own spiritual, like, they're their own being. Yeah. They're like on another level. We don't have time to get into trees right now.
No. But yeah, I mean, for me too, it's always been rocks. Oh. Like crystals. I would always collect rocks, and I used to find crystals, like quartz crystals, in the cornfield behind my grandparents' house. So ever since I was little, I've always been connected to stones and rocks, pebbles, crystals, like anything. Just obviously, as I got older, I was like, wait, I can get
there's magic in these. Yeah.
Like, I'm looking at, I have a whole thing of crystals right here beside me. I just put them out today. My little jar.
I love it that it says friend of, and there's like your friends, your little rock friends. Those are, friend of the Fae. Dude, those are some good rocks too. Those are some very excellent colored rocks.
Oh wait, I never showed that big one that I had gotten that I was talking about because I
look at your room. There's so much cool stuff in here.
All right. So many shiny things.
Wow, that one's intense. Is that a citrine?
So this one, it has citrine in it. It's smoky quartz, it's citrine, and a tiny bit of golden healer.
How does that, do they all just grow in the same place, or was that like a created rock?
So it's all part, they're all quartz variation. So it all just kind of, I guess, grew together. But yeah.
Interesting. There are different plants that you have to sometimes plant together because they grow best together. I wonder if there's a thing with rocks like that.
I wonder, because I know, like, well, amethyst, citrine, like those, amethyst and citrine are essentially the same crystal. It just depends on the heat. So citrine is more of like a heat-treated amethyst. Yeah, pretty crazy.
Wow, so, that's interesting. It's like a bell pepper.
Yes,
the different colors of the same pepper.
Right? Exactly. Well, that's like, and they're both also in the quartz family too. So there's a lot of different quartzes. So there's like the golden healer, there's smoky quartz, clear quartz, hematoid quartz. So that has red in it. I don't think I have any of mine with me. I had like a whole palm stone. I have almost like one of I have like a lot of crystals. And then there's like a rutilated quartz, which there's rutile that has tourmaline in it, which is black.
I know tourmaline. I know that one.
That's a good one. I call
That's
that
a good one.
I call that one which be gone because it's really good for getting rid of negativity. There's one with like gold, which I think is like feldspar or something like that. I forget what the gold is. And then there's like copper. Yeah, it's like, yeah, so so many chords. So many chords.
See, I missed on this. Like when I was a kid, there were things that I was drawn to that now I'm like, oh wow. And actually I have even when I was younger, even before I knew how to write, I always wanted to be a writer. Before I could spell, I wanted to be a writer. And so I would write out which was probably light language. Like I would write out pages of nothing. And I would be like, I'm a writer. And before I could spell, and I was just realizing like that is what my inner child always wants to do, is to write. That was one of the first things I knew, like cognizantly about me as a person, like I'm going to be a writer. Where the hell was that going? Oh, but I missed out on the rock thing. I've never, and I'm still waiting on my crystal emergence, you know, like I'm still, I don't get the crystal thing, and I want to. And I think also because crystals are like scientific, I know scientifically they like are real, like that you can kind of like see their radiation or whatever, like you can measure it, and then you can put it on people and see how like your aura changes or whatever, like that there's like a way to see it. But I don't know, it just passed me by completely. So I'm waiting on my rock phase.
Yeah, and I tried to get into other things like the tarot and the oracle, which I love them, but I'm not as consistent with them. I think the reason I work really well with crystals is because obviously I have ever since I've been a child, and they are so easy, so easy for me to be like with all the time, like
you're right,
everywhere. And that's like, this is the thing from my inner child and myself that I carry with me all the time. Like if I don't have a crystal that is like a loose one, then I can wear it and it looks fine and it feels great, and it also like has the benefit of making me feel like, oh look, I'm cute too. Like, you know.
Oh my gosh, that's a perfect thing to carry around, because I truly would like, especially something that is almost like a talisman that you picked out specifically, even if it wasn't like a crystal that had its own life going on. Although I do kind of believe that crystals are a little consciousness, but like I truly believe everything is conscious. So it's like even then you're bringing this little friend with you everywhere, and it kind of has the stuffed animal effect a little bit, where it's like this is another being with me in my little pot. See, almost, you know what I love? What are the movies that are like Spirited Away? Where
the Disney films?
Yeah, they'll just have a little buddy with them.
Yeah.
Like very early on in the film, they meet the buddy, and the buddy maybe doesn't talk, and it's just a fat little rat, fly, crow. It's just some obscure like woodland creature that just hangs out, and that's like, and they're just for fun. And that's like having like a little crystal with you. I think I do sometimes wear my my necklaces and stuff mean things. Like whenever I wear, this is Sekhmet, who I went through like a whole initiation with over the summer, and so I do feel like, and I don't wear her all the time. I only do it when I feel really called to, and for some reason today I decided to wear her. So that. Yeah, it feels like you're like really carrying around people. I would say, final answer, my inner child just really appreciates when I acknowledge like the consciousness, like the oneness of things, because it's very it really upsets me and is quite disturbing if I'm living and acting like I'm in a reality where like it's not all conscious. And I didn't know that for a long time. I think that that's half of why I was so weird as a kid, because I was like, I'm missing something. What's missing with this? What am I forgetting? And it's like, oh yeah, it's all real, but it's not real. It's like a paradox of like living energy. Which like, it's so strange that I remember thinking as a little kid, there was someone hit me with a soccer ball in the head, and like, you know, so sometimes that shakes things loose. I had this instant like acknowledgement, like, well, and I can remember hearing myself, like an older self, saying like, well, at least it's your last life. And I was like, what the hell? And I was really young and I had to stop. I remember like walking off of the soccer field and being like, I don't think anyone else heard that. Being a kid is super spooky. Being a kid is real spooky. I loved what you said about having to forget. And I think that there is a guilt in forgetting, but that's what the awakening is. It's like, no, you had to live this life, and now you get to come back, and you are still this person. It's like, it's the combination of all of that, which is such a gift. None of it's ever lost. We're never lost. we're never far from home. We didn't leave.
Exactly. It's a forgetting to remember.
Yeah.
Like,
which so for some reason we need to do.
Exactly.
For some reason. I don't know what it is. I don't know what happened, but apparently we all decided this was a great idea to do. So I trust us, I guess. I don't know. I agreed to it because I'm here, so.
And so am I. We are here.
We're here. Well, this was wonderful. I love this.
Also cool.
As always, a pleasure. The blue hair is amazing. And I feel like it does go, I know. This is our longest one yet. The blue hair, just, you're so like radiant. Like this is such it's so, I feel like I'm re-meeting you. And I'm so excited. So I'll mention, because we talked about it, is that next week is going to be our season 1 finale. And that I feel like when we're aiming for like after Easter, I think that both of us will go on our own little journey, because right now, like, yeah, we're kind of like, oh, I'm planning on doing this thing, or like I'm in the middle of the project, like, oh, I just renamed myself, oh, I'm going through this thing, and like now there's this jumping off point of like it's almost like I had a friend oh my god, I'm winding on about this, but like I had a friend who hiked the Appalachian Trail, and she said that something that was really interesting was like people would be at these certain spots, and then they would be like, okay, it's time for me to go, with like the full acknowledgement that like you very well, at the time that she was doing it, it wasn't as social media heavy, with the full acknowledgement that like you may never see that person ever again, and you met in the middle of the woods. But I love like that adventure of like, and then we'll meet again, like there'll be another place that we meet along the way, or like, so yes, maybe that'll be the theme. We'll have to, maybe something like that, like will be the theme for next week, of like the adventure, or like knowing the call, or I don't know, something like that. We'll do something kind of epic, because I think that we're definitely going to be doing some like cool work this spring. So
yeah. Well, if it works out.
Yeah, it will.
In May, I would be doing the live from Scotland or Ireland.
See, I think there's just gonna be like so much happening.
So much.
Soon. So we need to prepare. I'm gonna be turning 33, which is a really important year. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I know. So but this is technically my 33rd year. So I just get the acknowledgement of it if I survive until my birthday, that I collected the 33rd year in my pocket, and then I get to call myself 33. So, hello,
this is John.
Hello. I thought it was a dog at first. I'll let you feed your pet. Hello.
Until next time.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Good night.
Thank you.